We are live. Welcome back to the Selfish Summer Summit. I am Coriel, the founder and creator of Grown Woman TV and the host of Girls Stop Playing, where I encourage Black women to stop playing with their potential and start working for what they want in life and in love. The whole mission behind this Selfish Summer Summit was to really hold space and create a safe space for Black women who need to get a little selfish. We know that we wear, well, the majority of us wear so many hats, have so many roles, so many responsibilities that we don't often find time or make time for ourselves. We will make sure everybody else is taken care of, but when it comes to ourselves, we will find any excuse to put ourselves, onto the to-do list for the next day versus making sure that we mark off our personal things day by day. And so I wanted to encourage you all, if only for 14 days, to invest at least this hour in yourself. 1 hour out of your 24-hour day is literally just 4% of your time. And I am encouraging you to give yourself at least that. I also believe that when women focus on wellness, the entire family wins because, as you know, we are the ones that are responsible typically for maintaining these households. And so we have to make sure that we are intentional about living well so that we aren't being a hypocrite and we can teach our families to do the same. Now, we have talked about so many different topics on this summit. We talked about attachment styles, we talked about human design, we talked about um, uh, we had a wellness panel where we had women sharing their different wellness practices, how they establish boundaries. We've had a group therapy session. Last night, we talked about burnout, how to avoid burnout. And this conversation tonight is specifically around, well, women's health, women's wellness, but we're going to be talking about something that I am very curious about specifically, which is these hormones, y'all. Now, I have told y'all that you made it live. Hey, girl. Hey, I told y'all that the initial motivation for me having a selfish summer, because I was having a selfish summer before I decided to host this summit. And my initial reasoning was I'm turning 40 next year and I wanted to get myself together. One of the recent developments on this road to 40 is possible perimenopause. And I did not realize that it was time for that. Okay, I know everybody's saying the clock is ticking, but I did not realize the clock was ticking in such a manner. Okay. Until I interviewed an OBGYN on my podcast, and she talked about the fact that Black women specifically can sometimes start to experience symptoms around 35. And I said, oh. So so I'm definitely prime time. And if y'all are just as shocked as I was when I found that out, then tonight's conversation is definitely going to be useful, beneficial, and probably very enlightening to you. So I am about to bring up tonight's guest. You are going to get to meet and hear from Lashanna Moore. She is the owner of the Holistically Well Center, which is a wellness practice located in Houston, Texas. She has owned this center for 14 years, and she's also a holistic health practitioner and nutritionist, and she has a wealth of information to share. So, welcome to the summit, Lashanna.
Thank you, Coriel. Happy Monday. How was your Monday today?
Listen, I was running around like a crazy person, like right before I logged on here. So, I am relaxing. How was your Monday?
It Mondayed. I had
It
to
did
come
that.
home. I did clinic today. I had to come home and decompress, um, get recentered, take me a good shower, get prepared.
Can we start there? I think that's the
Yeah.
perfect place to start because how do you decompress? What does that look like for you? For the people who are running, and you
Right.
don't have a choice, how do you personally decompress? And what are some ways that the women watching this who are going after all the things can find time
And
to do the same?
yeah, for sure. So first of all, hello, ladies. Those of you who are joining us live or by replay, we are really in for some good talk tonight. I think decompressing works differently for everybody. It's based on your environment, your personality, what you have access to. So when I'm podcasting, many times I'll start us off with what's called a moment of we treat, where we go in and find our own personal way. I always say breathing is free, it's accessible. It's the quickest, powerful tool that you have at your leisure. Put in your artillery belt, your holistic utility belt. And I start with breathing and really sitting down and being still, because we know that our heart rate, our pulse, the traffic in our brain, all of that is connected to one another. So I really start with just getting still and breathing. I'm a woman of faith, so I may whisper a scripture or a prayer. For me, sometimes also I'll stretch, I'll shower, because there's something about just refreshing the entire body. Y'all know the power of nature, right? So just that water, there's something very refreshing and symbolic about allowing the water to wash over me. Just settling the needle and disciplining myself to sit. That's my main go-to for decompressing.
Why is that such a challenge for us to sit still, to calm our nerves,
Yeah,
to quiet the I don't want to say quiet the voices, but yeah,
right.
to quiet all of the mental traffic?
Because we are a go society, we're go people, we are performers, we are human doings. Everything about we're ambitious, we're pursuing all the time, whether it's internal or external, personal, professional. Everything around us also dictates that in order to be successful, in order to be progressive, in order to be productive, there is an action that's required. And then, of course, with media and technology and digitization has spoiled us. So, y'all, I'm Generation X, okay? So I was right on the verge. I was at that emergence of analog technology. I remember the first cell phones, fax machines, newspapers, all that good stuff. And so, because of all of the advancement, it really has spoiled us. It has tested our brain cells as well. Neurologists tell us all the time that our brain was not designed to take in as much information daily that we are consuming. And then you've got 60,000 thoughts running through your mind throughout the day. And you don't think it's going to be challenging for you to sit down, and it's boring. We feel like it is a boring activity. So it takes a lot of grace, because it's not perfect. You're going to define what that stillness or that slowing down means for you. It's going to be different for the woman who may have ADHD, to the woman who may be in perimenopause and she's having some brain fog. I heard you talking about it. We're going to get into that too. Or the woman who's multitasking, who has children, or maybe the woman who doesn't have children, but she's got a lot on her plate. It's going to look different for everybody.
What is, because I also think that people get frustrated or don't even get started when it comes to like meditation,
Yeah.
because you try it once and it is so hard. It is the
Mhm.
complete opposite of what we're used to.
Yeah.
Especially when you talk about, being performative, and
Yeah.
we are so goal oriented, and we literally feel like resting is wrong.
Yeah.
If we sit down for too long, it's like, okay, wait a minute, I need to be productive. I need to be doing something. We have to be going. If we're not doing all the things, then we're lazy.
Mhm.
We're not doing enough.
Right.
And so a lot of people will attempt meditation and then they're like, oh, wait a minute, no, I can't do this. And I think that part of it is because we are thinking that we got to sit still like a monk for 30 minutes.
Right.
And baby, 30 minutes, that's going to be a little challenging. So what is like the
Absolutely.
bare minimum? Like if you can just do this little bit, what
Yeah.
is something that's more realistic that we can offer as a resource?
I think you've got to decide what meditation means for you. The context of that word, the lexicon, meditate means to pause and to chew on something repeatedly until you digest it with a aha. So whether you're meditating on something you read, you're meditating in your body, you're meditating on something you heard, a good quote, meditating on a goal that you want to accomplish, it's all about just chewing on it. And so I would say you got to know your personality. That's number one. I don't think it's a linear path. Everyone's not going to sit still for 20, 30 minutes. I say try 5 minutes, but as I've started to work with a larger group of women who are legitimately and clinically having other focus issues, that's not always the route. What I will say to you is environment. Figure out what environment pulls you in. Moms are hiding in the bathroom from the kids because you never get a break. It could be your restroom. It could be your closet. It could be the pantry. It could be outdoors. I work with high income earners as well as low income earners, so they don't have the luxury of a backyard. You know, go to the wall, go in the corner, find your space and break out of the box of what even a clinical definition has told you have to do. Know your environment. Give yourself 60 seconds at a time. Chew on it. Give time to digest that thing. Let it metabolize. And the last thing I'll say, Coriel, is explore. Because you ever notice, like when we go on vacation, first of all, the environment is different, the climate is different, the momentum is different, the way of life is different, and we're able to tune in and tune out so easily. So, of course, we are kind of, I use this word loosely, victim of our civilization, but also it forces us, environment forces us to reacclimate. So just one thing, chew on that.
You on it. Okay, breaking it down, I think, makes it like more digestible because
Yeah,
if I gotta be a monk, I can't do that, so I'm not even gonna
yeah,
attempt to do it. But it doesn't have to look like what you think it has to look like. I've
yeah.
even seen people saying they meditate, they do walking meditations or running
Mm-hmm,
meditations, or if you
mm-hmm.
ride a bike or something that keeps you moving.
Yeah,
I know we're supposed to be talking about hormones, but you mentioned ADHD. So we'll
yeah.
come back. We'll come back. Well, no, let me start here because in my deep dive, I told y'all all of this is very personal. All of this is just sponsored by my life in this season I'm going into.
That's good.
So in my rabbit holes, my one rabbit hole of perimenopause and then another rabbit hole of adult ADHD, I am seeing that they can be confused.
Mm-hmm.
One can, be an onset for another. What is your experience, from an expert's point of view of either the link? Are they linked? Can one be mistaken for another? And why in the world does every Black woman over 35 that I come across think they have ADHD?
Mm. Yeah, that's a good question. It is difficult to determine many times. Brain fog is more like an electrical misfire in the brain. So that's neurological and hormonal. ADHD is more neurological. And it is all about how the brain is transporting messages throughout your nerve synapses. Brain fog can be troubleshot a lot quicker, I would say, than ADHD. ADHD is a clinical diagnosis, whereas brain fog is not so much clinical. It's more of a byproduct of what's happening in the body, the electrical misfire that I was talking about.
And then, so how does hormones, because that's even something that keeps coming up, is just
Yeah.
when your hormones are off balance, it can trigger all of these other things. So I might not know, no doctor might have told me that my hormones are off balance, but what are some things that we may be experiencing that could be triggering, telling us a warning signal that something may be wrong when it comes to your hormones?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me make sure that everyone understands what hormones are. So hormones, first of all, they're good girls. They honestly are good girls. They get a bad rap. We roll our eyes and we have a whole bunch of sister girl conversation around the hormones because she acting up. But they really are good girls. They regulate the activity of our cells, our tissue, and all of the organs of our body. They determine our function, our development, our growth, and especially for women, it determines like how the growth of our tissue is stimulated, the development of our breasts, reproduction organs. It affects your neurotransmitters, how it transports for sleep, for mood, for your memory, your libido, cognitive factors, our attention span. And so Let me make sure I'm answering your question. So when we think about hormones, it's a delicate balancing act. All of those girls are a delicate balancing act. And it really boils down to getting to know your body. You only can do that through time, process of time. I am 48. I'm 2 years from 50. I am officially in perimenopause, and I am still learning this body, how she functions, how she responds to things, what she likes and what she doesn't like. So that's the first thing, is to understand hormones and the roles that they play in our life. And I want to make sure that I answer your question completely. What was the second part of your
So
question?
it was things that we could be experiencing that could be
Yeah.
linked to hormones. We just don't know that that's what it could be.
Headaches, short attention span, irritability, vaginal dryness, change in your sexual appetite, extreme fatigue, memory, itchy eyes. The more uncommon ones, I'll share those, would be itchy eyes, restless leg syndrome, dry mouth, blurry vision. There is a very long, exhaustive list that a lot of times, if your doctor is not menopause or perimenopause trained, because all doctors are not, they're not required to be, can easily overlook, or even we do, because we're juggling so many things, can easily overlook and bypass a lot of those symptoms. Insomnia, cold sweats, hot flashes, just a change in your mood, literally thinking that you're going out of your mind. And I say that because there has been a study, Coriel, with women that are in perimenopause. And I'm not saying this to provoke fear, because I want to bring some joy to those of you who are preparing for this season before we close out. All right. It's a good time. But there are clinical studies of women who have become, who have been victim of suicide ideation, going through perimenopause, because of the fatty tissue in the brain that is shifting, and the estrogen and estradiol that's shifting. So not only is your body trying to figure things out, but your brain is too. And you go and see a doctor about it, they may disregard it, or they may refer you to a psychiatrist. And so women have been struggling. Now, with more information, more conversation, we're able to really target it. But in case you're listening and you have felt like you're going crazy, you're normal. You're not alone.
Listen, as you were naming off those like different symptoms, all I thought was
Yeah.
mom, 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 mom. Like any mom, any random
Yes.
mom off the street listening to this is gonna be like,
Yeah.
okay, I got that, I got that, I got that. And I
Hmm.
think that that is why these conversations are so important, because God forbid your body's trying to tell you that it's something
Yeah.
serious,
Yeah.
but we are so busy doing all of the
Right.
things that we don't even recognize it, don't even think much of it. And so we hear people say things like, listen to your body, or, check in
Mhm.
with your body. But I have literally, when I first, got started on this journey, and I think I was in a
Mhm.
meditation class, and it was the first time somebody told me like check in with your body. And I
Yeah.
was like, I don't really know what that means.
Yeah.
That's not just like my go-to. Okay, let me check in with my body.
Yeah.
And we had a conversation about me being disconnected from my body. And just the more that I learn, and the more that I, have conversations with other women, Black women specifically, I think a lot of us are disconnected from our body, because we're all up here. We're in our head so much. We're
Yeah.
thinking and overthinking that we don't even know what's going on in our body. So
Yeah.
what does it mean to like listen to your body?
That is loaded. Especially for Black women. I mean, first of all, our history way back from the 18th century of Black female slaves being experimented on and being used as experiments, so that Dr. Sims, who's known as the godfather of gynecology, could perfect his craft and his methods and his techniques, and all of his other fellow European doctors are gathered around these Black slaves. No anesthesia, no consideration, no care. All of that, number one, has trickled down to us consciously and unconsciously. Number two, our culture. what the culture has required of women, and then consider what the culture has required of Black women, whether they're requiring us to give out more, or whether the way they treat us is causing us to become more resistant. You almost feel like your defense mechanism is not to stop and listen to yourself. Background, childhood, any traumas and triggers, all of those things are going to determine whether a woman will stop and listen to her body. But those symptoms that I shared, those are all byproducts of the body sending messages. We've never been taught that until the last 5 to 10 years. And so you're not going to catch everything at once. If this is something, I would say to ladies, if this, I'll call it a phenomenon, if this phenomenon is something that is very strange or new to you, just try one thing. Just start with one thing. Man, I keep having these headaches. I can't shake these headaches. Gosh, I know I remember this. I know I cannot remember this for the life of me. If you notice that your work performance is suffering and you can't get a handle on it, or you can't identify what it is. Maybe your skin is dry and it's itching, or your nails are very frail, your hair is thinning out. Start with one thing, trying to identify one thing that's happening repeatedly. One thing, y'all, that's happening repeatedly. That's the beginning of your journey to listening to your body. Or a friend, somebody in your tribe who's constantly saying to you the same thing. You are always angry. Like you never listen. Did you sleep? You never go to sleep. Like, girl, when did you go to sleep? Just thinking also about things that people who love you now, people who love you have said repeatedly. That's another way to listen to your body.
So if you notice, okay, I'm experiencing some of these things. First question is, who do you go to? What type of doctor do you go to say that I have these issues? And two, what can be done? Like, what is the treatment, I guess, for a hormonal imbalance? Is that what we're talking about? Are we talking about hormonal imbalance? Because we're not just talking about perimenopause. Just
Right.
for clarity of the
Right.
conversation. Are we
Absolutely.
just talking about hormonal imbalances, period? And is that what you would go and tell your doctor?
Hormones are the gateway to all of this that we're talking about. So you can start, if you have a doctor, you can start with your PCP or your family doctor. You can start there just based on where ladies are. I do encourage, and this is always based on your capacity and your resources, but I always encourage women to have a balance of both. Have you a physician, because we need them, and also have you a functional medicine or holistic practitioner. Have those two professionals in your medical pocket, in your healthcare pocket, so that you can get a balance of both of those worlds and those methodologies. Start with your regular doctor. When it comes to hormones, that would be your endocrinologist. If you want to go and go straight to the specialist, that's going to be an endocrinologist. Start taking notes too. Once you've started listening a little bit and you see some things repeating, go ahead and make notes. This is going to empower you when you go to the doctor, or if you have your telehealth visit, you can actually articulate for yourself what's going on. And listen, don't shy away from it. Don't think that what you're experiencing is too minimal. Don't be passive about it. You don't know how many women, clients, and patients that I've had. Again, not a fear monger, because I do not believe in that, but just for information purposes, have ended up being diagnosed with ovarian cancer, cervical cancer, by something that started very, very small, very, very small, a speck, a headache, just something very small. So try not to bypass any of those things. Family practitioner, if that's where you're starting, endocrinologist for hormones.
But what is because we have these conversations about advocating for ourselves, and a lot
Yeah.
of times it comes with like pregnancy, because we've all experienced somebody trying to dictate what you gonna do with your
Right.
body, and that usually happens during pregnancy. But in general, Black women are not listened to. Our pain is
Correct.
minimized. Our, our symptoms are minimized. So when you present these things, a doctor, a lot of times, not all of them, but a lot of times, will either brush you off,
Yeah.
misdiagnose you, be too busy to really hear you out.
Yeah.
So what is the, like, in an ideal best case scenario,
Yeah.
what will your doctor do? Will your doctor say, okay, let's order this set of tests? Will they say, let's,
Mhm.
run these labs?
Yeah.
Is there, like, what is the actual, what should they be doing?
Great question. First of all, interview your doctor. If your doctor doesn't work for you, do not return. I've walked out of offices, y'all. I have walked away from I have filed complaints on doctors. So first of all, interview your doctor. If they're not making eye contact, if you don't feel seen, if you don't feel heard, sure, they only have 15 to 20 minutes with you. But it's not about quantity, it's about quality. If you don't feel connected, whether it's 5 minutes or 50 minutes, get another doctor. We among ourselves, we talk a lot, maybe a referral from a friend, or from your insurance. So that's the first thing, is to interview your doctor. The second thing would be, yes, they're going to order a hormone panel. You let your doctor know you want a full hormone panel. Here's the second thing I want you to do. Ask your doctor, is there a particular cycle of the month that you need to come to take those tests? That's very important, because you're, as a Black woman, your hormones are going to read in a particular way with the standard of those tests in different cycles of the month. We go through 4 different phases every month. So that's the second thing. You're going to ask your doctor, is there a particular time of the month you need to come and take these tests? Ask about urinalysis and blood. Those are going to be the other. I would also ask you to include thyroid, a full thyroid panel. Our thyroid and our hormones work side by side. They're twins. And here's the tricky thing about it. This is why I would say ask for both of those. They both carry some of the same side effects, the same symptoms. They overlap in those areas. So many times, if the thyroid is off, it's hyperactive or it's hypoactive, it's going to directly affect your hormones. Then you start seeing weight gain, bloating, trouble with your bowel movements, skin breakout. All of those different issues will happen.
Okay, and you said something earlier. I want to make sure we are not talking over anybody's head,
Yeah.
just for clarity purposes. You mentioned that you should have your regular doctor that you got now, but then also
Mhm.
functional medicine or
Mhm.
naturopathic. Can you explain what that means for people who have just never even known that this was an option?
Absolutely. So functional medicine, it is a biology-based approach to identifying issues that are going on in our body. It's all about finding the root of what's happening in our body. A accredited functional medicine doctor will have gone through pharmacology just like a regular doctor. Based on where you live state-wise, you'll have to look up functional medicine doctors in your area. But that's basically what a functional medicine doctor does. They're able to treat, they're able to diagnose, they're able to test, they're able to do all of those things. If you're not able to find a functional medicine doctor, then you can go to someone like myself, a holistic health practitioner, which in jest is able to do the same to a degree. Test, send off orders and prescriptions, but find some non-surgical pathways for you based on what your issue is. Or, like I like to do, connect you with a holistic thinking physician who will work with you. And I've got some really good physician friends who will say to their patients, I don't want to put you on high blood pressure medicine, but you got to start getting active. So there's some good doctors out there, but that's the general term.
I love that. And hopefully part of just the messaging that y'all are getting constantly is
Yeah.
you are in control here. You are the designer
Mhm.
of your destiny in every sense of the word. And no doctor, Black folks, we love to look up to the doctors, baby. No doctor can
Right,
dictate
right.
or determine
Yeah.
your destiny. And so just finding encouragement, hopefully,
Yeah.
in these conversations that regardless of what the prognosis is, regardless of what the diagnosis is, that it is not too late and that you are in control and you can make
That's
that
good,
change.
Coriel.
I mean,
Absolutely.
listen, I can't imagine the hopelessness of just, and I've had conversations, LaShawn, I've
Mhm.
had conversations with women who are like, I wish I did not listen when they recommended that, or I wish I would have just
Yeah.
asked for a second opinion. And you don't want to be in that position when it's after the fact, you know? So hopefully these conversations are just, you know, preventative
For
conversations.
sure.
So I have interviewed so many women who
Hmm.
end up talking about, and I don't even know how these conversations come up, but I've had the conversation about fibroids more times than I can count with more
Yeah.
Black women than I care to even think about. And the way that we've normalized it, the way that the conversation becomes, this
Yeah.
is just the expectation as a Black woman. I think that that is absolutely wild, especially when I've learned how lifestyle can contribute and just how so many different things can contribute to your well being in that way. So, when it comes to fibroids, what are some little known, um, maybe triggers or little known influences that could be impacting your fibroids? Because I've heard of people like having the surgeries, having them removed, but then they
Right.
have not addressed the root. So they
Right.
just come right back.
Yeah. Fibroids, the conversation about fibroids is a very complex and controversial and frustrating one. I share with my community all the time. I am patient and practitioner because I have been there. I understand fibroids. I understand PCOS. I understand being a woman in all of these arenas and phases and development of life. And in doing this for 14 years now, and as well as being a researcher, particularly of fibroid health, the basic drive of the fibroids are hormones. Hormones play a role in the development of uterine fibroids, your estrogen, your genetics, your lifestyle, family history, not having children, as well as postnatal, having children, how the body changes, environmental. There are a lot of different factors. If I were to drive it home to one major cause and culprit, it would be the hormones, particularly the estrogen. And for us, Black women, genetic, our makeup, we are more prone to higher levels of estrogen. So you're knowing that as the root, your pathway forward in how you pursue either living well with fibroids, reducing them, eliminating them. I leave that up to the women. Whatever your journey and your decision is with it, because everybody's at a different stage. Pursue it from the basis of this is an estrogen. You hear the term estrogen dominant. This is like estrogen on steroids. This is an estrogen based issue. Research, honestly, Coriel, is still happening as it relates to the what and the why of fibroids. When it comes to Black women, though, what we know for sure is that it is estrogen based, and that's how we pursue what we're going to do moving forward.
Before we move on from fibroids, what is your suggestion or solution for a woman tuned in right now that is dealing with this issue, does not have the resources to visit a functional
Mm-hmm.
doctor, is feeling pressured to have a procedure? What would you recommend that she tries to make lifestyle changes? Like, how can we encourage that woman who feels like she does not have a choice? Especially,
Yeah.
I've heard these conversations from women who want to have kids, and it's like they
Yeah.
are feeling double pressure because now they have like that deadline that they're trying to, you know, beat the clock.
Yeah. It is definitely going to start with lifestyle. My side note to that, though, is handle it a little at a time. I reduced my fibroids naturally. Does not make me a hero among women who went on and got a hysterectomy. Those 2 years were very, very difficult. At 48 now, I can't tell you that I would do it the same way again because it is a hell of a journey doing things holistically. Your cell function and the way that your body processes cellularly is going to be different. So this is what I would say. Don't underestimate stress. We're finding more and more in research how stress is building. Here's the tricky part about stress. Stress is not always loud and up close. Your body is processing it and trying to transmute it before you may even realize that you're dealing with stress. Stress doesn't happen the same for everybody. We got high functioning women. So you can have high functioning depression. Stress is number one. Definitely remove some of the sugar. I'm not going to tell you to remove all sugar, in all honesty, and I'm talking as a practitioner. It's not realistic. So I'm not going to give you tips that are unrealistic. Reduce. Try to determine if you are an emotional eater constantly. I say constantly because all of us will emotionally eat at some point. Life is out here, life and y'all, from the politics to the environment to our interpersonal, relationships. Life is lifing. Remove some of that sugar. Exercise and mobility. As Black women, we accumulate more visceral fat. The visceral fat is not the fat that you can pinch. The visceral fat is the invisible fat in the body that wraps itself around the organs. So yes, while we do want to be snatched, it's not just about the subcutaneous fat. It's about the invisible fat. We have to get control of that. Mobility, strength training is going to do that. Not just cardio, but strength training. Resistance training is going to work wonders on your estrogen. So that's something you can do at home. You don't have to go to a gym. Those are the things I would start with, Coriel, is removing sugar, and I'm not including herbs because you said something that everyone can do. Removing a lot of the sugar. Exercise, get physical. Your stress, you've got to go to sleep at night. Cortisol is rising at night. The muscles are not repairing. Cortisol and inflammation is in the brain. And if you've already got another pre-existing issue, it's going to compound and complicate those things. I'm going to start right there. And if you want to go into other details, we can. But those things, and I would say try to be as consistent as you can. Not perfect, but consistent.
I know they're like, girl, if you tell me to put that sugar away one more time, I mean, I think that has come up in every single night. I think sugar has been linked to something. And the sad part, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, one reason why, though, is because sugar gives us what we're missing right now in life. You need a sense. It's the same thing as if you're shopping. Remember COVID and everybody was on Amazon amped up because we were missing serotonin. We were missing tryptophan. We were missing oxytocin. So you've got to, here's the holistic thing. Holistic is thinking, not just doing, but the way that I think. You're going to have to track why you're doing what you're doing. You're going to have to take some time to figure it out. And that can go deep for some of us. You know how we were raised, finishing your plate, eat everything. Your dessert is your reward. You've got to sit down and really backtrack your why. And if sugar is a nemesis of yours, or every time you hear it, you're like, man, I don't want to hear that again. That you need to sit down and track your reason why.
Ooh, you know what I thought about too when you said that, thinking of the reason why, I thought about the stress.
Yes.
Because so often we are literally stressing ourselves out trying to live up to this standard that either we've created for ourselves, a caretaker created when we were a child. Like we are running after, we are on that hamster wheel, running after that carrot, and it's not ever gonna stop. Like it's never gonna stop dangling. And so you're always gonna be running after it. And so, I've seen the research that says like 80 to 90% of all diseases is stress related. And instantly your thought is, okay, well, I ain't got time to be stressed out. Like, forget it all. I'm just not gonna be stressed out. But then life be lifing, and the bills still got to get paid, and the kids still be acting bad, and your man still need what like it's still always a thing. So how am I supposed to stop stressing? Now I'm stressed out because I know I'm not supposed to be stressed. Now I'm stressing about stressing. So what does that look like realistically? Because you said you like to
Yeah.
tell the people things that they can really do. So for a
Yeah.
woman out there that's wearing a million hats, how are you supposed to stop stressing?
Let's talk about boundaries. Period. Okay? This is the time. Um, your idea of boundaries is going to be connected to your personality. Passive aggressive, been called, or you've been called aggressive. You've been called too strong. Boundaries, what I have learned to tell myself is that they're a love language. Boundaries are a love language. Your children need your love language of boundaries. Your job, and that's going to be very different for everybody, somewhere in your job needs your boundaries of love language. Because if you've got a boss who has no boundaries, they're going to supervise you as someone who does not respect boundaries. Relationships, your tribe, your boundaries are your love language. So, this is where you're going to start in terms of how to manage your stress. I want you to take one thing. When you hear boundaries, the first thing you think about, that's what you're going to tackle first. You're going to sit down and decide, or write out, or think about, how does this thing trigger me? What makes me upset with this thing or this person when I don't say no, or when I don't, or when I feel impulsive, or when I get upset with myself? Um, Start with that one thing. And again, based on personality, because a lot of people don't like confrontation, I say write it out, practice it, script it, how you're going to respond, so that you don't feel caught off guard and fall back into that trap. If it's your significant other, if it's your boss, if it's a parent, hello, because that happens too. If it's your child, whatever the case may be, like, script out how you're going to respond to that and just practice it. But that's where we need to start when it comes to stress. A lot of times you're stressed out because you will not execute boundaries, period.
You stressed out about other people's stuff.
Right.
It ain't even your stuff. You know what? You didn't say something there, because
Exactly.
that's how I'm going to
Yes,
reframe it in my mind. I'm going to reframe it as boundaries is my love language for myself. Because I feel like love language is
absolutely.
how you love other people, but boundaries is how you
It's
love
your
yourself.
love language. Absolutely. That's it. That's it. It's your love
There's
language.
something right there. I
Yeah,
like that. Okay. Because that's a whole nother thing. The whole
it
boundaries thing,
is.
that's a whole nother thing. But you're
It
right. Most of
is.
the time you are stressed out trying to do for somebody else, or take care of somebody else, or not disappoint somebody else, or live up to the expectation, when
Right.
we really need to sit down somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we talk about PCOS?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not gonna lie to y'all, again, knock on wood, I have been blessed that I have not personally had to experience some of these things, to the point where, I mean, I have talked to women about the excruciating pain that they're in during their periods, but then also the, like, what it does to your mental health when you are dealing with some of these PCOS specific symptoms. So, what is it? How does it present? Is it something we can do to prevent it? Give us the rundown on PCOS.
For sure. So PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome, or some people, my British friends, call it PCOS. It's a condition, it's an endocrine issue where you have multiple cysts throughout your ovaries. This affects many women in different ways. There are different types of PCOS. There's inflammatory PCOS, there is adrenal PCOS, which is one of your reproductive glands or your hormonal glands. There's insulin resistant PCOS, which is very common with Black women. And then there's also post pill PCOS that can happen once you have come off of birth control. So you want to know what kind of PCOS you have, which can be your doctor, your gynecologist can help, or your endocrinologist can help identify that. But PCOS has also been linked to one of the major factors in infertility, or women having trouble conceiving because their ovulation is not regular. So it's very hard to track fertilizing the eggs. Also, it's going to affect many women's period. She's going to have longer periods. Sometimes she will have unusual, sporadic periods. And also, we have the male hormone called androgen, but when you have PCOS, the body overproduces androgen. So some women will experience excessive body hair or facial hair. That's probably the biggest or the most common symptom with the androgen. So that's PCOS 101. That's
And is this something that can develop at any time throughout the course of your life?
It can. Doesn't have to, but it can for women. Now, I have discovered that PCOS can be highly genetic. And our mothers, they didn't know. There was no diagnosis for PCOS. So you really would not know unless you were having a very detailed conversation with your mom, your aunts, your grandmothers, and finding out more about their reproductive journey. I'll use my family for example. A lot of the women in my family were very hairy, facial hair. All of my mother's sisters and herself all miscarried. They all lost a child before they had children. All of them hit menopause very hard. So really trying to track, if you're able to, tracking and finding those similarities will also help you kind of further investigate when you're meeting with your doctor.
I love that you can identify and pinpoint all of those things, in your family history, because for so many, I'm gonna speak about my family. Okay, let me not say so many, but
Yeah,
and I'm gonna say many, because I feel like this is not just a my family thing. I think a lot of Black families specifically, and this might be a post-traumatic slave disorder type of thing, but keep so much of our business close knit. Like so many things are swept under the rug. I don't want to talk about it. Don't ask about it. Pretend like it doesn't exist. And
right.
so once you get caught in that don't ask, don't tell kind of thing, that kind of covers everything. Like I'm going to
It
not
does.
ask, don't tell about anything, because I think
Mhm.
everything is off limits. And you could legit have a genetic health
Yes.
issue that
Yes.
goes unheard because your family isn't even talking about it.
Yes. I figured it out with my mom. Now, my grandmother was not a talker. I lost my mother in 2020. So now being in perimenopause, I find myself like grappling, trying to remember things we had conversation about. Thankfully for me, my mom was a talker. She wanted to discuss everything. So I remember one time having conversation. We were talking about all these things. She was lighter skinned, so her facial hair was more prominent. I'm darker, so I was able to camouflage my hair, my facial hair. So we were talking, and I got laser hair, y'all, because I don't listen now. I don't care how liberal we are. I'm not doing that. I ain't doing that.
So
Ain't
that's
doing
where
no
we draw the
facial hair,
line.
no
Gotcha.
armpit. Not here. But anywho, we were having a conversation, and I was like, "Mom, I think you had PCOS." Like she checked all the boxes. She was like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." So I'm Generation X. My mom is a baby boomer. They
Mm-hmm.
weren't diagnosing back then.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I think you had PCOS. Some of our symptoms were very, very similar. So there is a strong chance that women who have PCOS, that they've been predisposed to it. And then insulin as well. Yeah.
This is why we have to start having these conversations. So for some of us, it's going to start with us, because we
Yes.
don't come from talkers. So we got to make sure that we
Yes.
literally break that curse, because it literally can be a curse, especially if we're talking about something health related. We have to
That's
start
right.
having these conversations.
That's right.
So I want to end on a positive,
Yeah.
preventative
Let's do
note,
it.
because I'm all about being proactive, right? So we out here knowing that we have a desire, and this is for the ladies who are listening that do have a desire to become a mother, and we're talking about fertility.
Mm-hmm.
I just I believe that we should be preparing for every stage in
Mm-hmm.
life. The same way we prepare for the job, the college degree, all of the
Mm-hmm.
things that we want. If you know you want to be a mother, let's figure out how we can prepare our womb
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
now so that we can develop these babies in the healthiest environment possible. So for
Yeah.
women out there watching this who's like, okay, I know that I am in my pre-baby season. I am in pre-mommy mode. What should
Yeah.
she be doing right now to prepare her body for the best possible pregnancy
Do
and
all
birth?
do all of the free things first. Exercise. Cut the caffeine. I'm just go through the list. I'm not going to expound. Exercise, Cut the caffeine, I'll say reduce the caffeine. Start prenatal vitamins now. Research is telling us that you can start prenatal vitamins up to a year to 2 years before you start actively trying to pursue fertility. Um, if you're smoking, stop the smoking. Why? Because that nicotine and what it does to your lungs will directly affect your ecosystem. Your body's not running separately and independent from the other. Exercising, really try to maintain a healthy weight. What does that look like? That means that your blood pressure is regulated. You do not have high cholesterol. That we've taken the BMI factor off of the scale now, but you know, for your height and your age, kind of the range that you need to be in realistically. Stress, sleep, quality air as best as you can. If you want to be vigilant about it, get you some humidifiers and some purifiers in your house. Protein. Now we got animal-based protein eaters and we've got plant-based protein eaters. Whatever it is that suits you, make sure that you're getting enough protein every day. Why? Because that is directly linked with your reproductive health and your immunity. Healthy fats, fiber. This is an alternative therapy if you can do it. Oxygen therapy, hyperbaric chamber. It feeds 100% oxygen to the brain. When the brain has 100% oxygen, then it can adequately transmit to your ovaries, your uterus, your liver, your kidney, all of your organs. Look into that. Fertility and hyperbaric chamber treatment. Another alternative therapy, which has been very helpful, is acupuncture. Why? Because of the meridian points. Our body, we talk about energy a lot, as we've been talking about hormones, but energy and energy points, vital points, as much as hormones, you get those two clicking on all cylinders and you can increase your chance of fertility. Try not to stress, because sometimes, y'all, it is just a matter of time. It's just like losing weight. You lose weight all of a sudden when you're not trying and you're not thinking about it. Oh man, I lost 5 pounds. Sometimes it's going to happen when you chill. Start there.
Yeah, stop stressing yourself out about it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I have so enjoyed this conversation. I know we could have went on for another hour, because when it comes to women's wellness, I don't think we can ever know too much.
Right.
Let me put your Instagram back up one more time. Let the people know where they can find you. I know your center is in Houston, Texas. So for
Yeah.
anybody who's watching this that's in Houston, let them know what you offer, how they can find out more about you, and where they can connect with you online.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity to share. I've enjoyed this conversation too, Coriel. Thank you for sharing your selfishness with other women, because I think it's going to help other women to be selfish with themselves. But as you see online, Instagram, Lashanna Leonard Moore. Also, my holistic center is on Instagram, Holistically Well Center, and it's holistically with a W. We are based in Houston, but we also have a very large virtual bank. Or virtual pool. So you can do telehealth. We have services for women who are underserved and uninsured. So don't worry about that. Go to our website, holisticallywell.co. C-O. We work with hormones, weight, gut health, mental health, all of the realms of being well and being whole, mind, body, soul, and spirit, nutrition, all of those different things, physical fitness. We got it.
You got it covered. A
Hol-
complete, the entire. Oh,
Holisticallywell.co.
that is .co. That's all right.
Not
I spelled it
holistically.
wrong.
Not yeah. Take the
Oh, not
center off.
center. Oh, that
Yeah.
was the Instagram. Okay, hold on. Let me
Yeah.
correct it. Let me correct it. I'm like, wait a minute, what I spelled wrong? Okay, gotcha.
Thank
There we
you.
go. There we go. There we go. Okay,
Yeah.
holisticallywell.co. On Instagram, it's Holistically Well Center.
Yeah.
I have enjoyed this. I know y'all have as well. Please make sure you follow Lashanna on Instagram. Check her out online, and we will be right back here tomorrow night, 8 p.m. We are talking about the wife life.
Yeah.
Okay, get into it. See y'all tomorrow.
Bye.